welcome to another episode of The Man Space. My co-host Marquese and I are absolutely thrilled to be coming back to you with another episode as we navigate the month for mental health for men and diversity, equity, inclusion, and everything that is going on around us. The topic we're going to talk about is very, very important. We are going to be talking about midlife crisis. What causes this? How can men navigate this best? What kind of support system they need to be successful, and everything else related to it. So I am going to turn this over to my co-host Marquees as the gentleman on the group who is well versed from a personal experience and from his friends and support system what this looks like. So Marquees, when you think of midlife crisis, what is it and what is it caused by?
Man, such a great question. It's one of those things that have eluded us all. We just tend to recognize it as men divorce their wife, go get a fancy red car, and whatever, wild and fancy. And while that may not be the stereotypical, or maybe that is the stereotypical, what we do know is happening is that if there are a lot of divorced women available, then their partner, if it were male, they're in it together, and maybe all of us are going through it. But when I think about it from a man's perspective in the stereotypical scenario that I gave you, I get it. I get it. Like I understand it. And the odd thing about it, I think, is I was having a conversation with a friend of mine about 6 months ago, and we were talking about our task as men. Nothing wrong with being a man, love being a man. But it's work, 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 retire, leave it to your family, die, in a blanket sense. And what I think many of us find when we start awakening to that being the truth in our 40s and our 50s, it's like, wait a minute, this is all I get? Like there's nothing else to this but that? No. An instant rebellion happens and we freak out because, like anyone else who finds out they've been in a rat race and the ending is gloom and doom, we don't want that. While we still have a little bit of fight in us, we want to fight and find our way out of it. And that may look many different ways. And I think that it looks many different ways. In many instances, unhealthy is because we don't talk. We don't have the deeper conversations along the way because everything about a man is fight, win, make money, that's it. And obviously there's a lot more to us than that. But when we've not cultivated communities where we can discover other aspects of who we are, our spiritual nature, our physical nature, it's easy for us to just do the thing that identifies us. It's very similar, if I may, for just a moment, when I think of Latin mothers. And I know it's more than Latin mothers, but when I think of Latin mothers, they lose their identity the moment they have children. Everything is about their children. Everything until the child is gone. And so their whole life becomes dedicated to this child. And then when a child leaves, they're wondering what's going on? Who am I? What's there for me to do? And I think men live a very similar parallel where all of our identity is established in how many toys do you have? Where do you rank in the company? And it's enforced by women, not that women are to blame, but our society is set up such that identifies you. You're a man's man. I remember when I first learned about alpha males, and I was like, that's just not my thing. Like, I don't care to be the guy who has to rule everything. But then I learned about sigmas, and I was like, see, I'm over here somewhere. But the point is that if I wasn't an alpha male, and I can delve in that arena, but I care less about machismo or trying to prove myself to some other man. I'm very comfortable in my own skin. So I don't need to beat my chest to be the man, unquote. But culturally, that's how we're defined. And then when we realize we're all going to the same place and we're in midlife going, what have I been doing this whole time? The natural response is to freak out. So not having a community is a really big thing that I think happens to us. And there's a little research that backs it up. My same friend that I was having this conversation with called me one day and said, according to research, men over the age of 40, only 15% of them have a confidant. That blew my mind.
Now, that's so interesting you say that because my husband Mike and I met when I was in my late 20s and he was in his late 40s. And we became best friends, and use the term confidant. And Mike was a single dad who had raised his son, and he was back in college getting his master's to switch careers. And he had casual acquaintances and fun friends, but really no confidant. And it was funny how quickly we bonded and we became that confidant. So he didn't have to go through a midlife crisis as a married man, but we took the journey together. I was transitioning from the East to the West. And he, now, as you explain, it makes sense. He was transitioning through his midlife. And the fact that we took that journey together, and it was based on a friendship, a camaraderie, a support system, and the ability to sit up late night anytime and talk about what's on anybody's mind, actually built the bond that eventually got us to a place where we got married. But I can imagine it's not easy for a man to do that with another man.
No, Kaz, we're not talking about women in this conversation, but he happened to have the space with you that many men don't have in the West that allowed him to navigate that. But imagine, if you will, everyone's hungry, everyone's looking for food. And if you give away your food or you come home with no food, you're outcast. That's what it's like. It's like we're all striving. We're nearing the end of our career, knowing a young guy's about to replace us, trying to hold on for retirement so we have some significance for the work we put in. And then we read another stat that in many careers, men tend to die about 7 or 10 years after they retire. Right? So all of these things just start hitting you, and you're like, who am I? What am I? And all I know is I got to do something. And I think that's what tends to happen. We go wild trying to search for meaning, trying to search for value, trying not to feel like we've wasted our life away and we're just going to give it to someone else. And I think that is what plagues us. I'm actually coaching someone right now who I think, as a man, has done one of the most amazing jobs ever. I feel like, this is my opinion, he has been approaching that. He hit 45 and he's like, my life's great, to be honest, but something's missing. Family's good, good money, good status, but I envy other people in their expression of living. I'm so proud of him for that, because to me, that's about the space where we go and something has to change. If all I'm doing is this for everyone else, then it really isn't worth it. Or if that's all that I am, now what? So I think, like Mike had with you, having that confidant allows the sorting through of emotions, because it's not until here where we're conflicted with our emotions. We pushed them down before because men shouldn't be emotional. Not really. And
Emotional is different from feeling the emotions, right?
that's good, Kaz. That's really good. I agree with you. Being emotional is different from feeling the emotions. And that fight or flight kicks in. I think part of what has begun to open up this world, thank God for even the acknowledgement of Men's Mental Health Month. I should have researched when was it founded, because for the longest, and it's still not widely accepted, but for the longest we couldn't talk about that because you weren't being a man. And I think that while we are better, that still haunts us a little bit, right? Because that's how we've been groomed to sort through. But the reality is, we do feel emotions. The reality is, we do want to feel valuable. The reality is, yes, we know we're going to die and pass away, but we also want to experience what it means to feel alive, other than whether or not our job gives value to us. And I think the problem doesn't lie with women. The problem definitely lies with the individual and how they've taken the time to discover themselves. And, if only 15% of us have a confidant, there's a reason. And it's not
And
all.
it's interesting you say that, because also the response, there's also a structural problem.
Yeah.
If societal structure
Mhm.
puts people in boxes
Mhm.
and everybody is trying to navigate the box, not realizing each box has a door and a window I can reach out,
Yeah.
right? We're
Mhm.
born into a family, we build families, we live in communities, so
Mhm.
everything is around us. So somewhere along the way, especially in this Western society, everything is identified by jobs. I have had older men who've just been downsized in their company. Here is a real story. An older gentleman who used to take the train with me from Huntley
Mhm.
got downsized and he tracked me down and called me
Mm.
and wanted to know if I could be a reference and help him get a job in one of the companies I know.
Okay.
And I stopped him and said, before we go there, how do you feel about being downsized? We need to help you deal with the emotion and
Mhm.
come out of it fully confident.
Mhm.
Otherwise, you're not going to help yourself at an interview.
Yeah, you're gonna bring it right with you. Yeah.
And he said, you really want to talk about it? I said, yeah. He said, why would you do that? I said, because you're a human being, you're somebody's husband, you're somebody's father. And this is what humans are supposed to do for each other. Yes, I do some of the stuff you're asking me for a living, but this is not a fee for service. You're an actual human. So why don't we meet up and talk and have you take the opportunity to have that cathartic moment? And do you
Yeah.
know what he said? I have never talked to you at the train station. I'm a white male. I would never engage with you because you were different, and yet you are helping me. I'm ashamed that I have never crossed over to get to know you. And
Mhm.
here you are, knowing how I treated you, you are here to help me, right? So we've created this environment where everybody is in boxes: race, religion, color, size, shape, right? Gender. And this is not serving us. And even when we get to the midlife crisis, men cannot focus on just cars and babes, because then we are staying in the material, physical, what I call the Epicurean phase,
Mm.
leisure seeking. But what about the psychological and spiritual parts that if you haven't invested in it up until now, isn't this the time to go seek it out? Or if you go down the Epicurean path, there is nothing productive that is going to come out of it.
Yeah. Will Smith just talked about the Epicurean part. He's like, I have tried anything and everything, and I have the access. And let me tell you, the highest of the high, there's just a cliff. There's nothing there. The only satisfaction is going to come in between. It's like you can't buy it, you can't find it, you can't be next to it, you can't touch it. And I think what you said was pivotal that the gentleman said that you acknowledged about him. Why would you help me? Because in the masculine world, in the toxic masculine world, because I don't believe in toxic masculinity, but in the toxic masculine world, you don't ask for help. You're supposed to figure it out. You're a man. That's what men do. We have so many things we make up that make zero sense, and no one told us what that actually looks like. So we have to facade, just be strong, and we just lock in without any sense of awareness, without any sense of the ability to be soft and to feel whatever's happening. The man should have been embarrassed, but he also doesn't know anything different. And I think Men's Mental Health Awareness Month begs us to start saying, okay, it's probably true. I'm one of the 15% of people, or I'm on the 85% of people who don't have a confidant. Where do I start? One of the things that I've just been lucky. I've been surrounded by men and great leaders, so it allowed me to be more open with the men in my life. But I think one of the ways to do that is either the same way we find relationships, either through hobbies, collective hobbies, through spiritual connections, if you have those, if you feel safe in those, uh, through work, outings, things of that nature. It can be a little risky at work, I know, because again, there's that jockeying for king of the mountain syndrome going on. So that can be a stretch. But I think finding a coach, I think finding a masculine male coach is one of the other ways. And then last but not least, books like The Way of the Superior Man. I've talked about it on this show before because these are tools that help us to start learning to be, dare I say, the V word, vulnerable. Because as a man, Kaz, he was vulnerable asking you to even be a reference. Like in the world that we live in, that takes a lot to ask a woman I don't talk to. And I think it's because we're taught to be transactional. That's just the Western way.
Mhm.
So encountering people like you, like Mike was able to, choosing to be vulnerable and taking the risk because some people will betray you. I've been betrayed by men before, and I'm just kind of like, are you like I thought you were like a brother? Then what? What? But it can happen. But the only way to find spaces of vulnerability are to take those risks to begin seeking deeper conversation. Because you're right, the Epicurean way is the counter. We want it, so we take the Epicurean because we don't know where to find it. But like you said, it will do nothing but consume us and leave us empty and dry time and time again. We may have fun, but meanwhile, we're just walking zombies, sorting it through. So this whole
Yeah.
midlife crisis thing, I ultimately think it comes back to self-awareness.
Mhm.
Talk
I
about,
hear you. I hear you.
yeah,
Curiosity, twofold curiosity. One, the definition of strength. To me, the grass is the strongest because it's perennial, whether it's winter or massive drought, it doesn't die because the roots are so deep and
yeah,
it bends and sways and
yeah,
stays alive. And to me, that is the definition of strength,
yeah,
not the tree that stands rigid and then falls, right? The more rigid you are, the greater the fall. The
yeah,
more flexible and resilient you are, the more adaptable and scalable your life is going to be. That
yeah,
is the one curiosity question. Where does the definition of strength, meaning I need to be unbreakable and unbendable, come from? And the second curiosity question is when people fall in love, and men normally have to propose to a woman to
yeah,
get married. When they make that choice, why isn't that needle further threaded to build the relationship so that as a couple they are like this
yeah,
and together they are stronger
mhm,
instead of like this and the smallest thing it falls apart because they're
yeah.
life partners.
Mhm. I think, is there more you want to say on that?
No, those were my two curiosity questions.
So to the first one, the definition of strength, we don't have one. It's more kind of this idea that you never quit. When in fact there are times we should quit and go do something different. Without having that sense of self-awareness, all we can be is driven, Cass. If we don't, so we will naturally do more drugs, uh, chase more women, uh, spend money frivolously, because we don't we haven't found the out. We haven't found the sense of like I don't like what I'm doing, but I've been doing what I've been doing for so long, I don't know what else to do. But then that meets the stage of like, yep, and your death is imminent. So is this what you want to do the rest of your life? And of
Mhm.
course the answer is no, and that's what we call midlife crisis. I think that this definition of strength that you offered about grass and being able to bend and sway, in a more from a my perspective, thinking to men who are listening now, it looks strength looks like actually being authentic. Not authentic, I'm angry. Authentic, I'm actually scared, and I'm not sure how to find meaning between now and 75. Eddie Murphy said it this way. He said, he was on camera, he came off camera, broke the fourth wall, and said 75. 75. That's the average amount of years currently most people are going to get. He said, the problem is we think we have however many years between how old you are now and 75, but the reality is you're counting wrong. At that time, I was 50 years old. He said, you need to count it by summers. So I did the math. It's obviously 25. He said, not to me specifically, he said, but whatever that number is, that's how many summers you have left. I have 25 summers left on average. That's not a lot of time. So we freak out going, I must do something because there's no way I'm just like the next 2 summers are planned. Like, what are you talking? And instead of going inward and deeper and looking for meaning, one of the things I was talking to my client about is this, and that with men, like we may want to replace our wives or our partners at that age, but the reality that's not the time to do that. That's the time to dig deeper into who we are and to discover our meaning in the lives of the people that we impact and affect while nurturing ourselves. But that can only come through doing the work of a coach, the work of reading, the work of being vulnerable. Those three avenues have to be pursued to start to unpack it before you unravel. The second question about why not marry partners who are compatible with us, I think it goes back to a lot of the shallowness that we are that and when we talk about society, we are society. It's the shallowness that we engage in that makes us look good, think we feel good, and again makes us king of the mountain. How pretty is she, or this or that? And we just have our foundation handed to us without any rules, without any truth. It's just sort of out there. Do you have the best looking or not? And there's this sort of thing that, you know how women compete, men do too. We do too. Who has the bigger toys? Who has the more beautiful wife? Who can act like they don't love their wife and you're the man and you're in control? All these fake outward things. Meanwhile, inside we're brewing and we're losing. Uh, One of the things that, speaking in the marriage arena, until a man has developed some level of self awareness, I don't even recommend getting married. That's for the young guys who might be watching. Just wait. It's not worth it. It might look good, it might feel good, but it's going to cost you half later. So taking the time to create that as best as possible, I think it's worth it. But I think the midlife crisis is inevitable for all of us who have not done the work. I think
And
that's
I've
the only.
watched it. I have watched it at work. I've watched it in community.
Yeah.
And some allow you to step in and help, some stay away, and you have to honor that.
Yeah.
So it's amazing how time flies. And we're
Oh,
almost at the end of this conversation, Marquise. And I
all
know
right.
this is a topic near and dear to your heart. So
Yeah.
why don't you go ahead and wrap up with any nugget of wisdom you have for our Manspace audience?
Yeah. So here's what I want to offer. Number one, you're far more valuable than you realize. I understand the way life has worked, you haven't had the time to do it, but there is no greater time than right now to do it if you want the rest of your life to be meaningful. That has nothing to do with you should stay with your partner or if you should change your job. This has everything to do with your existence, regardless of the situation or circumstance you find yourself. Two, you need to find a way to push yourself, whether that's a 5K, a 10K, or a men's group out in the wilderness, or whatever that is. You've got to find a way to push yourself to restore this balance that you've been missing. Again, it's not likely your family, it's your own effort and self pursuit. Three, get a coach or a best friend that you can be blatantly honest with who won't just go, oh, yeah, that's exactly how it is. You should hear about my war story. No, no, no. Get someone who respects you. I was going to say love, but it's the same. Who respects you enough to tell you the truth to your face and still be your best buddy. If that guy is the party animal, he's probably not the one. Still a good friend to have, but you have to put him on a short leash so that you don't throw yourself off the rails. But those three things begin to open up this pathway, this journey for you to have a more fulfilling life so that you discover the beauty that you've built versus throw it all away, start all over, and live empty the rest of your life. Those are just my closing thoughts. I hope they stand out to you. I hope they make sense. And I hope that you, when it's your time, you're part of the 15% who has someone that you can actually talk to.